Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you a 4 versus 4 on Odon, and in this one I'm going to be playing with the 2nd Panzer Division. On my team today I have Betz, Jagdsorce and Genjeft, who are going to be playing the Festung Großparis, 2nd Panzer and Festung. And then on the opposing side we have the Island Man, Gonzo, Stashman and Yurilov, who are going to be playing the Guards Armoured, 1st SSB, 7th Armoured and 101st Airborne. So this was one of the first proper games that I've had with the 2nd Panzer, and it was one that was played on my stream. And if you guys would like to catch my streams, by the way, they are every Saturday at 8 PM GMT. And they will continue on YouTube for the foreseeable future. So make sure you join me if you haven't already, and come check it out. It's good fun, and you might be able to get in on a game as well. So there's always that. But yeah, this was a really good game to basically showcase some of the new units that the 2nd Panzer bring along. So that's what I plan to do today. Just sort of talk through some of them and show you how they're used and how they can be used and the potential of each unit. So we have the Spätrupp coming down early on. These guys are pretty awesome because they have the 2-star veterancy, which means that the half-tracks they bring in as well are also 2-star veterancy. That's something that sort of runs through the 2nd Panzer in general in Phase A. You can see my Panzerschreck squads here also being brought in. They have 2-star veterancy, and that makes their 250-10 half-tracks 2-star veterans. We have the half-track here with the Panzer Grenadiers that are also bringing in a 1-star half-track, and then we have the 253 with the 2-star Command Infantry as well. On the right side, it's going to be a 1-star Pack 40 and a 2-star Spätrupp squad as well. Now, I've sped up the deployment quite a bit because it was a very long one, and therefore I didn't want to hang about, get the game underway as soon as possible, because it seems to be what you guys prefer. So yeah, interesting setup really. One that I found quite interesting, because generally I think you would see people bring along a tank early on, but I didn't feel like, because it was Odon, that I needed a tank at the start, so I decided to rely on the Panzerschreck squads, and they would sort of sit around the main roads and kill any units that tried to like force down those roads. Also, the 250-10s are really good at like cleaning up half-track pushes. So if I got pushed by a lot of half-tracks, these 250-10s can clean them up quite easily because they have quite high rate of fire, like 12 rounds per minute. And they also have 2-star veterancy, which helps out their 4 accuracy quite a lot. So off we go. Let's show you guys where my units are actually heading. We have a Spätrupp heading to this tree line here with the Panzerschreck, and that's to sort of stand in the middle of these 2 roads to cover those. And then we have the Pack 40 on this far right side, and the reason I've chosen this location is due to line of sight more than anything. If you go further left, you get blocked a lot by this tree line, whereas if you go further right, you have and can take advantage of the 1,200 meter range. So I'm going to be placing my Pack 40 over here somewhere, just to try and make sure that I can cover this compound and also the roads that go around it. And the Spätrupp are going to be there as well to help me spot things. Spätrupp are rushing up to the mid. I was planning to unload those earlier, but I saw the salient forming, so I just decided to push into it. Also, this is a really good place to like hide a half-track, so it's going to be pretty difficult for my opponent to like push back onto this 251, because it's going to be hard to kill it if I just have it tucked in the corner there. On this left side, the Panzerschreck there just covering that advance, and at the moment my 250-10 now just engaging with some of these Bedford trucks and half-tracks that my opponent is using, and I ended up being up against Island Man during this game. So 250-10 going to be trying to get a shot onto the Bedford there, but wasn't successful. Spätrupp though are able to use their machine gun to kill off the Willys MMG. We have the rifles here now being pinned down as well, but I don't want to get my Spätrupp killed. I want to maintain the recon information where I can, so I'm just going to pull back those Spätrupp. And I'm moving my 250-10 up to the left here as well, just so that I can get a decent shot across this tree line. Ideally what I should have done is kind of tuck it in a bit more, because then it wouldn't have been so open to being engaged by like enemy tanks. And considering I'm up against the Guards Armoured, that's something that's quite likely to happen, especially with like Cromwell 7s and Cromwell 6s. But this turns out to be a honey. That's going to start engaging my half-track there. I'm just going to keep that half-track alive. The half-track's pretty important to keep alive, just because it's the only real way that I can transport this Pack 40 across the river quickly. Because Pack 40 itself can't push across the river. It has to be picked. Well, it can sort of push itself round and over this bridge to the left here. But ideally, I want to be able to use the half-track to pull that round nice and quick. Anyway, Honey Stuart takes up my 250-10, but my Pack 40 picks up a kill onto a Cromwell 6 there. And now we're going to be seeing a kill onto the M5 half-track as well. That Cromwell 6 kill was extremely important at the start of the game. That was the only tool really that Island Man had, other than this mortar, that he could use to take out my Pack 40. And I was pretty much aware at this point that he didn't have another Cromwell 6 available, because he'd already purchased the mortar. He has a Honey Stuart, he has the rifles, he's had the half-track there with probably motorized rifles. So having this Pack 40 here and taking out that Cromwell 6 was just really nice. And I think Island Man probably just didn't have the recon to spot my Pack 40, and it was in a pretty obscure location, which allowed me to pick up that kill, so that was really nice. That's put me in an advantage already, and to take advantage of that advantage, I'm going to be bringing in the Panzer 4H now to join the front line, and that will allow me a little bit of pushing power to accompany these Panzergrens in making some ground. Because currently my front line is mostly made up of spear troop, which is pretty weak. The only significant force I have is like the Panzergrens here, and you can see I'm even having to rely on the grenades from my infantry squads to take out half-track. So that's what the spear troop here are doing, just trying to get the grenades on target on that half-track, and I do manage to just about. Now it's these motorized rifles engaging spear troop, and I do have the 253 and the 251 on target, so I'm able to pin those down very quickly and make them surrender. Panzer 4H is being engaged by the Honey Stuart, and I'm going to try and continue that engagement where I can whilst my Panzergrens continue to push up. I know there's the rifle squad in here, so I'm just going to be unloading my Panzergrens to engage them with the machine gun. The 251 can also help out there and pin those down very quickly. Island Man doesn't have his command close enough there to stop that from happening. The Dingo, it looks like it was trying to push up to try and stop that from happening, but here we find the Panzer IV getting a shot onto the Dingo, and my Pack 40 finding a shot onto the Stuart. Stuart gets tracked wheels destroyed, and the Dingo goes down. With that Dingo destroyed, I'm pretty much free to move up now with the Panzergrens and the half-track, so you can see my half-track just charging ahead. Got to be a little bit careful of Piats, as we did see the half-track unload probably some motorized rifles into these buildings earlier on. There turns out to be normal rifles there for now, but with this push occurring on the right and me making some ground, you can see my half-tracks are now maneuvering elsewhere. Island Man has brought himself in another Cromwell 6, but that's now on the left side as opposed to the right, so this Pack 40 is more than safe for now. Take out the command infantry there, and that's going to leave these rifles pinned down until they get surrendered or taken out by the machine gun at really, really close range.
Please, don't shoot.
So there we go, rifles surrender. Panzer 4H has done a great job there. We have the infantry in this tree line that's just sort of sat there waiting to die. I believe that was actually recon, I think. On this left side, the 250-10 does die going a little bit too far forwards. But my half-track here is going to find some rifles and it's going to start chewing them up. And just in general, I've made quite a lot of ground with my half-tracks, even though I am losing quite a few of them now. Now you can see all of my infantry has sort of moved up along with them, so I'm able to maintain control of this ground while I'm going. So the Panzergrenführer here, providing 3-star veterancy to both these half-tracks. Also Panzerschreck there is moving up, speed troops moving up, these half-tracks both moving up as well. Just trying to get them into positions that's like out of line of sight of the enemy tanks, whilst also moving up my own tanks and taking positions that were previously owned by Island Man. So a series of like important kills, both onto the Honey, onto the Cromwell 6, has really led to like the map being left open for me, and I've made a lot of ground, sort of moved up to the next tree line. And now it seems as though Island Man is trying to reinforce with more Honeys. He's also got the Cromwell 6 here. Well, I've got my Panzer IV, of course, so that's one thing that I have. I've also got a BEO Panzer 2C on the way, and that's going to try and help me punch through even more. On this right side, since the Pak 40's done its job, we're going to be reloading that onto the 250-1-1, and I'm going to be moving that up to the front line to assist my half tracks and infantry shortly, just so I don't forget about it and actually make use of it throughout the entire game. Got to keep those resources on the front line. Meanwhile, I've also moved over some Panzer Grenadiers to this left side. I've moved up my half track here because there was a small salient for me against Gonzo. Gonzo was putting a lot of pressure onto Jagdsource, so I just made sure I covered Jagdsource's right flank so that he could concentrate on what he needed to. And on the far side, Stashman is pushing through Genjeff pretty hard at the moment. But either way, I just decided to focus primarily on my right side so that I could try and make as much ground as possible. Motorized rifles there take out one of my half tracks, and we do manage to take out the recon behind me. But I'm not too concerned about these motorized rifles, especially if my Panzer 2C is on the way, because this Panzer 2C does have a 20mm autocannon, so that's going to be pretty useful for ripping to shreds enemy infantry. So a lot of these half tracks may be taking damage unnecessarily at this point, but either way, we are going to be seeing a Sherman 2 come down the road here. That's going to be engaging my Panzer 4. My Panzer IV is 2-star veterancy, is in the range of my Panzergrenführer. So I'm going to be having that engagement with Gonzo here, who sent over some armoured support to help Island Man try and relieve him some of this pressure that I'm putting on. But a second Panzer IVH is on the way for me, and you can see I've got some off-map coming down now onto these motorised rifles with the Panzer 2C. Also, we have just moved into Phase B, and that's going to be starting to give me 150 points per minute, which is absolutely insane. This division, crazy high income in Phase B. So here comes my Pak 40. I've got another one coming up to this left side to help out with the Panzer IVHs as I continue to try and put the pressure on Island Man. Island Man still relying on the Stuarts. Also relying on some of this infantry, but I'm taking out the half tracks relatively well. And now here comes the off map. The idea of the off map just trying to help me clean up the infantry or just pin them down for now. Panzergren's going to be able to move up there, help the Panzergrens, or help the Panzer IVs take them out. 253 is going to make a peek, just to see what he can see. Does get shot at briefly by the Honey, but that was mainly just a probing attack to allow me to see where my Pak 40 was going. Motorized rifles here, going to get pinned down very quickly. And we see the Stuart here. That's going to pin down my Pak 40. I did manage to get the driver wounded, but that's not going to be enough to save my Pak 40 for now. On the main road to the left here in the town, Honey does reveal itself to the Panzer IV. Panzer IV going to get the crew wounded. My Panzer IVH here trying to kill the Lloyd carrier before it unloads its AT gun, but as soon as it unloads its AT gun, Panzer IV has to be very careful. So yeah, just going to try and keep out of line of sight of that. Don't want to risk that engagement if I don't have to. My Pak 40 did just about manage to get out of the way of that engagement with the Honey, which was nice. And motorized rifles here are going to engage my Panzer IV. They managed to go invisible again, get off another Piat shot. That one actually bounces. Incredibly lucky there for me. The Panzer IV bouncing the Piat. But does enable me to then kill off the motorized rifle squad and leave my Panzer IV in a very good position. Now this half track again revealing the position of the 6-pounder. I put some off map on that. I just want to try and take it out if I can. Managed to get the pin down, which is nice, and then a shot lands on top. And the 6-pounder's down. Panzer IV also kills off a Honey. Panzer IV also engaging a Honey Stuart at this point. And now we see the Cromwell 7s arriving. So these Cromwell 7s are actually pretty well suited to deal with Panzer IVs because of their higher armour. But the Panzer IV is still pretty good, and also mine has the veterancy over his Cromwell 7. But that one there, unvetted Cromwell 7, gonna pop my Panzer IVH, which was rather rude of him. 253 gonna be shot at by the Cromwell 7, that one missing this time. Time for me to get this Pack 40 into the tree line. Originally I didn't have that in the tree line because it did get pinned down by the Honey, and also there was infantry in this tree line, so I wanted to be careful with the Pack 40. But now I don't have to be as careful. Gonna try and off map these tanks and then maybe move through with the Pack 40 and take them out. That's the plan. Now one thing to sort of check out is how the line of sight changes with this Pack 40, because this really helped me out as I continued to push forwards here. So you can see I can only see the half track, no one else can fire at me, so I'm able to hit that and force it to surrender in one shot at that range. Then you can see the ranging sort of enlarging, and I'm going to find my next target, which is going to be this Cromwell on the left side there. Ideally I would have had a sort of command here to make that 2-star veteran, but either way still managed to do the job. Cromwell 7 down. Now the Honey moves back into line of sight. That gets driver wounded, so he can't get away. Pack 40 gets that kill. Pack 40 then going to turn on to the Honey Stuart, or the Stuart 6. Loses line of sight since there's no recon. Get that kill. Sherman 5, 1 shot, 1 kill. And yeah, that was mainly due to me unloading the Panzer gunshot at that point, the 1 shot, 1 kill onto the Sherman. But 4 tank kills, one after the other. Very, very helpful indeed. Also helps take out the Vickers HMG. Island Man just lost a hell of a lot of assets. So that is, you know, 130 point Sherman. We've got like 120 point Cromwell. You got 2 Honeys going down, or Stuart 6s. And it just seemed that it was mainly due to sort of all of them being uncoordinated. But here we see the Pack 40 knocking out the Stuart 6 as well, and that's eventually going to go down. There we go. So now with all of that armour burning on the field, I've got a push coming up with the 232, a Flampanzer. I've got my Panzer II now moving forwards, and I've also brought up some of these Sturmgrenadiers to try and make some ground as well. So they're going to be charging forwards to the next compound through this orchard, and my Flampanzer is going to be joining that. I come across the Command Cromwell 4 that gets a Panzerfaust in the face, and another armour kill going in my favour. Sherman 5 now coming up for Island Man. The Command Sherman 5, that's 135 points apiece. I'm just going to be getting my vehicles behind cover and also behind the orchard. And over on this left side I also use these Sturmgrenadiers to clean out this compound, but I'm not going to stare at that for too long because there is currently a bug with the Sturmgrenadiers where their MP44 continues to fire even after they've completed their engagement. But yeah, with all of these armour kills occurring, I'm now bringing up my Befehl Panzer IV, which is going to be Ramsch, one of the new aces, Horst Ramsch, and then we have another Befehl Panzer IV H coming up, because these are pretty much the only tanks that I have access to in Phase B. So yeah, looking good so far. We've made quite a lot of ground, but we are only at a +1, mainly due to us being pushed back on the left side of the map, and also Betz is not having a good time here against his opponent. Both of the Festings actually getting pushed back, which is something that I don't think a lot of people expect due to, I think a lot of people think the new Axis divisions are really strong, but I don't know, I'm not so sure. In this case, on my side, I think just getting the important kill onto both the Cromwell 7 with the Pak 40 and also the kill onto the Cromwell 6 at the start with the Pak 40 was incredibly important. And those sort of opened the door for me to push through with my other units and just secure territory. Like the amount of half tracks that they have, like it's almost enabled that to happen. Got to be careful with this 232 being engaged by the 17 pounder that's come up. So just being careful about that at the moment. Don't want to get Ramsch or the Panzer IV into line of sight either, so just got to be very careful. But motorized rifles coming into the tree line there, that was a bad idea. They got absolutely annihilated. Flam Panzer now going to be moving up, actually following Ramsch at the moment. But the idea was to sort of push into these buildings, or maybe just towards these AT guns to take them out. So just going to be trying to take out that half track, make the AT guns immobile. These are actually just 25 pounders. Completely forgot about that. Yeah, they were just 25 pounders, so this is why I'm being so aggressive towards them. The Panzer II making short work of those. They're much less threatening than a 17 pounder. And here, this is rather funny. Flam Panzer moves around. The Sherman 5's hiding behind that little bit of tree, these trees there. But with my Flam Panzer like approaching it like it is, it keeps causing the Sherman 5 to move, because obviously the Sherman 5 doesn't want to sit on the flames. And therefore we eventually just make it surrender without it even firing, which was pretty damn nice. Unfortunately for me, I kind of get a bit of a, get blunted in this push by Island Man's Firefly coming in. So I wanted to try and push up to the spawn, which is here. If I zoom out far enough, you can see the land spawn. I wanted to try and zoom up to that land spawn to try and stop him spawning in any more units. But with the arrival of that Firefly, it was just in time to stop the Befehl Panzer IVs from making too much ground. Now I get track wheel damage here from the Piat. You can see the next Piat actually misses. Those Piats are so damn inaccurate, but I've got more infantry on the way already. And I do have the 232 providing the veterancy. So these are 2-star Sturm Grenadiers. They're going to be engaging with the motorized rifles and absolutely demolishing them at that range. 15 HE, just really, really useful. And then we're also able to engage the motorized rifles since they're in 200 meter range as well. Really, really nice. Now I'm actually going to end up double teaming Harris here. You can see I've moved out the Panzer IVHs and the Panzer IVH on the right and Ramsch on the left. Ramsch is going to be finding a line of sight onto Harris. We did manage to get the engine stall, but since I got a transmission damage, it sort of overrid that, and Harris is still able to move, but isn't going to get away easy with this one. Panzer IV has all day to find the kill, and I most certainly will. So I'm going to try and keep zoomed out a bit more now, just because the Sturmgrenadier bug is well underway in this game. I managed to bring up some Gepards here. I actually had this Gepard Flak 38 combo originally in this orchard, but I moved it up to this orchard. And orchards work really, really well for AA, by the way, guys. If you didn't already know this, orchards are probably one of the best places to have AA, because they're sort of unseen. But they can also have line of sight up into the sky and, shoot things they need to. So here it's just a matter of playing around the 17 pounder. I've got to make sure that that is dead if I can. 232 is playing with fire. My Panzer IV here, Ramsch, is also trying to tuck in behind the tree though. And, well, I lose the Panzer II. It takes a little bit, well, it goes a little bit wide. Wasn't quite concentrating on the line of sight here, as I was also looking at engaging the infantry on the left side. But the 232 putting itself in a pretty terrible position. My half-track's in a pretty awful position as well. Now it's just a matter of getting my Vespers on target. Since it's 150 points per minute in Phase B, I'd saved up quite a lot of points, and I decided to buy in 2 Vespers, which actually came in very handy at this point to pin down this 17 pounder. So there we go, finally managed to kill that off. Sturmgrenadiers are busy making ground towards these buildings. I don't think the Sturmgrenadiers are necessarily OP at the moment. I think they can be taken out by units that excel at 100 meter range. But the great thing about Sturmgrenadiers is they can sort of, especially if they're in a defensive position, is they can engage enemy 100 meter range infantry beyond 100 meter range, and they get the advantage, like the health advantage. But either way, with my concentrated push down this right side of the map, you can see that I'm spread out quite a lot on my side, but it's fine because now I've taken care of the spawn, I can just start to sweep from right to left. So motorized rifles there going to end up surrendering. I managed to get the Panzer Schreck onto the enemy half track, and that's going to secure me this town area. Great stuff. And you can see the bug I was talking about here. These Sturmgrenadiers, they attacked this building ages ago, and their MP44 is still firing. Hopefully they'll fix that in the future. Panzer A, or Panther A, sorry, is on the way. That's going to be the first of my heavy armor arriving on the field. I didn't particularly need like any new units at this point, so you'll see me start to like save up for expensive units throughout this phase, even though I've only got 110 points per minute. So that's the first of the Panthers on the field. But otherwise it's just a matter of me moving forwards with the Panzer IV-H here, and this Panzer IV-H up the top side. This one finding a shot onto the Cromwell 6. I'm just trying to take that out to stop that being a threat. And you can also see me moving forwards the Gepards again towards these orchards. Now the smaller orchards work a lot better than the bigger orchards, because if you put one right in the middle of the big orchard, then you kind of do suffer from issues with like actually breaking your line of sight with aircraft. But for example in this one, it works really well. Now as any aircraft come towards the mid, they sort of fly over my AA and take a lot of damage. So I'm just going to have my Focke-Wulf flying about on this right side. My 232 here gets driver wounded in front of a 17 pounder, and the 232s goes down. But I'm still bringing in some reinforcements, got some more infantry on the way, just to assist my tanks as they try and make some ground. Ramch here is going to be engaging the AT gun as it retreats. Not sure Iron Man was aware that this was going on, because ideally that would have been on an attack move order, so he actually engaged the Panzer IV. When Panzer IV was given enough time to actually engage the 17 pounder and just kill it off, which is actually a pretty big mistake. So the 17 pounder going down there, the Vesper's also coming in on top of that at the same time. Focke-Wulf's going to be trying to get the kill onto the Hellcat here, and also this Hellcat following up. But in comes the Tempest, got to be careful with that. So going to be changing my engagement, try and shoot down the Tempest instead. I do have a lot of AA on this right side, so what I'm going to be doing is trying to bait the Tempest over that AA. But in doing so, the Tempest does get on my tail, and because it's a 2-star Tempest, it can put a lot of fire down, and therefore I couldn't pin it down quick enough. But fortunately I do have a second Focke-Wulf 190, and my AA at this point is pretty damn strong, so Tempest goes down anyway, and I trade a Focke-Wulf for a Tempest, which wasn't too bad. Cromwell has been killed on this left side, and since I've captured the spawn here, I don't actually have to have any of these units on the far right. So you'll start to see me move them all over to the left and just start swinging from right to left and start joining Jagdsource in his push onto Gonzo, since Jagdsource has made quite a lot of ground now. Now the reason this game's taken so long, by the way guys, is mainly due to the fact we got pushed back a lot on the left side, but now it seems as though Genjeft has stabilised. Betz is still having a little bit of a hard time in the town, but I'm definitely making a lot of ground. So we're currently pushing the +2, almost +3 towards 65% territory. But I'm waiting for my Panther A to do the job here. That takes out a Sherman 5, has also hit one of Gonzo's dingoes. And I'm trying to get these Sturmgrenadiers into position to push into the next tree lines and make even more ground. You can see I've also picked up a Pack 40 with my half track here, and that will be joining me on the front line shortly.
Please,
and I'm starting to now move up these units that I was talking about. The Panzer, I may as well have that at the front line. Same with the Pak 40s, for example. So you can see I'm just sort of starting to move all of these units to better positions. Also joining the AA lineup is a 3-star mobile wagon. These things are exceptionally strong at shooting down aircraft, especially with the assistance of two 20mm here. On this left side, 17-pounder out of nowhere. I didn't have any recon here, which was my bad. Panther A goes down. That was a pretty big mistake, honestly, on my part. 17-pounder, I should have been able to see that coming, and then the Panther A would have been able to avoid that death, but never mind. Vesper now going to just open up on that location to try and pin it down sooner than later, so that my other units can continue down this road. VulcanHDGaming going to just about get into those buildings, and we can see the Vesper shot come down. Up on the top side, Ramsch just waiting to see if this half-track gets killed, and it does, and that's why you send out half-tracks before you send out tanks. 17-pounder one-shots. Hellcats now coming in. They're trying to hit my Vespers, but my AA is very strong at this point. Fortunately for Gonzo, his Hellcats retreat in the right direction, so they don't get killed off this time around. Down here, Recce Squad takes out my Panzerschreck, which was rather rude. And I don't want them to kill off my Panzergrenadier because they have the advantage in that building. So I'm just going to let my Panzergrens kill those off after smoking my Panzergrenadier there. So great stuff. Gonna now continue with the Panzergrens towards these buildings. Got Panzergrens moving across here as well. These are the ones that were all the way back here with this half-track. This half-track could have also joined them, but at this point I'm just trying to focus on taking out the 17-pounder that was here, as well as continue to push up my Pak 40s. Just get into a position where I can continue the push. So just all of my units from the right side now moving over to the left. That includes my recon, which I definitely should have had some in this sort of town area. So yeah, the 2nd Panzer in general, I find them pretty interesting to play. They have a lot of strong units, but in this game in particular, it was particularly reliant on the sort of specific kills onto like the Cromwell 7 and the Cromwell 6 that I mentioned before. But even without those, being able to build up Panzer IVs in Phase A and B, especially Phase A, like 2 Panzer IVs, can definitely make quite a punch if you support them correctly. And I think that's the main way that this sort of division is supposed to play. You rely on like the support on your Panzer IVs to make that ground, and you do have the infantry to do that. For example, you have access to both Sturm Pioneers and Panzergrens, I believe, in Phase A, and then you can support them with like the Sturm Grenadiers in Phase B. So there's a lot of sort of tools at your disposal. Now here we see my Pak 40 start to engage multiple half-tracks coming down this road. I've also got a Befehl Panther on the way. My 231 is also coming up. This is to provide some recon to the Befehl Panther. But that's going to find some rifles, so that gets held up. But the idea here is to stop these half-tracks from getting into this town, because currently I've only got one Panzergren squad here, and he doesn't have a Panzerschreck, so that's a bit of a problem. Island Man is going to smoke off my Pak 40 and cover the advance of the M5 half-tracks. Befehl Panther just a little bit late to the party. Panzergrens here going to get absolutely hammered by the motorised rifles and the half-tracks, and unfortunately I'm going to lose those to a surrender. Hadn't quite moved up my Panzergrenadier to that sort of town yet, so there we go. Just waiting for this Panther to find its kills. Currently aiming at the motorised rifles here. This 231 unfortunately mismicroed into the line of sight of the Sherman 5 and the Humber Mark 4. I think it also ends up getting hit by the Piats from the motorised rifles anyway. So yeah, just an overall mismicro from that 231. It was supposed to be there as recon for the Befehl Panther, but fortunately I do have this 251 on the way with the Speed Troop. The Pack 40 here, that's going to find the 17 pounder that I was targeting earlier, which is good. It takes out the half-track that was carrying the Pack 40, but if the Pack 40 can kill off the 17 pounder, that's definitely going to help us out because the propelled Panther is not therefore under threat. Got another Pack 40 down here, so we can pretty much double team the Humber Mark IV once the smoke clears, but Iron Man did a good job of putting down this smoke. It definitely stopped me from stopping his push into this town. Propelled Panther here, that's its job is basically to take out the Sherman 5 right now. So Pack 40, that's going to find line of sight onto the AT gun up here. I've also got the Sherman Grenadiers on target as well. And once that's dead, I can move up the Panzer 4. So that's what I was hoping to do. Also, this Pack 40 has found line of sight onto the Sherman 5, but it's going to get pinned down by enemy artillery. Sherman 5 here goes down due to the Propelled Panther and Pack 40 finding shots onto that. I also had the Panzer coming up as well, which could have engaged that at that range anyway. So just across the board, sweeping from right to left, and it's going pretty well at the moment. Poor Willie's MMG going to go down as well. Propelled Panther also has line of sight onto the Humber there. Pack 40 still engaging the infantry on the left side. Crazy stuff. If we just zoom out for a bit, we can protect our ears from the overwhelming fire of the Sturm Grenadiers. They certainly love to waste ammo. Just like constantly firing. Typhoon AT's coming in there. Going to try and rocket the Pack 40 because it's 2 stars. It took me a little while to actually pin that down. But flying over all of my AA like that is probably not the best idea for the Typhoon AT, so it ends up actually being shot down. It doesn't even get the kill onto the Pack 40, so that was a really, really nice kill for me. Aufklärer, Panther D, now on the field. That's going to be joining my Propelled Panther in the push here. I've also brought up a 231 to accompany the Panzer Grenadiers in pushing into this town. So the idea being that the 20mm can just rip to shreds enemy infantry that they come across, especially at that range. So there you go, motorized rifles down. M5 half-track was taken out by the Panther D. Got to be a little bit careful of the Piat taking out the 231. But with the double Panther here, we can also fire into the town with those. But who needs to fire into a town when you can bomb a town? And here we have the advance of Betz's bombers. Look at this. It's like a proper bombing strike. Gonna absolutely level this town. And my 231's gonna move in and to secure that. Absolutely crazy. C-fire. F3 going to be coming in. That's going to get shot down by my AA. 231 moved into the town. Going to try and sort of surrender any units that are left over. Managed to get rid of that Vickers HMG. Fantastic stuff. Thanks to Betz for his bombing strike there. And following up, we have the Sturm Pioneers. Now, for some reason, these motorized rifles were not dealt with, so they managed to recover themselves relatively easily by the one man that was left in that town after that bombing strike. But with him being pinned down, I've got my half-track moving in there to try and take them out, and that's going to cause them to surrender. And I'm just moving up with the Sturm Pioneers now to sort of capture that land whilst I continue to push up elsewhere. Sturm Grenadiers being hit pretty hard by Vickers HMG there. Getting pretty low on health as I continue to charge forwards, just about smoke them off and get them into a building. 231's helping pin down the motorized rifles here. We see the Hellcat come in. Plenty of Hellcats from Gonzo trying to help out. Last one gets shot down. That line of AA is just absolutely deadly.
Ready, sir.
And my 20 mils, I'm going to keep them reloaded at this point as well. Got this munition truck here that can fill them back up. Also, the 3-star mobile wagon anyway is doing a lot of work, and I've also got the second mobile wagon now here as well. Another Tempest gonna go down, and any Air Force that comes in at this point is just absolutely futile. I mean, anything that comes in at this point, with the combination of units that I have, has just been running them over since Phase B. Having the 150 points per minute allowed me to buy in all of the stuff that I needed, and with the loss of certain units for Island Man, it just made it incredibly hard for him to hold me back. So 17 pounder there, revealing itself. I should have had some recon up on this top side, so I could have spotted that sooner, but what I'm trying to do here is get to this next land spawn. You can see that arrow there. And try and cut that off. That was my plan for the end of this game. Since we have ran pretty much the entirety of the 40 minutes of the game due to us losing elsewhere. But that's the 17 pounder dead. M5 half track goes down as well. And having this Pack 40 crossfire was just working so damn well. Ramp's also getting involved now. Any reinforcements that come in here just getting wrecked at this point. Hellcat coming over with the bombing strike. Gonna get slammed by all of the 36mm or 37mm AA guns that they have. That was not getting close. And we have the motorized rifles there being pinned down. The Sexton gets bailed out. And trying to get this 251 to try and capture that spawn before the end of the game. Sexton does end up dying. And yeah, just sort of cleaning up at this point. Hellcat again coming in with another rocket strike. Does kill off one of my Sturmgrenadiers. But that is game. And what a dominating game that was with the 2nd Panzer. Hopefully showed off a lot of the new units that they have access to. I ended up with that game with 5,170 kills to 1,530 losses. Pretty good game. Unfortunately, Bets didn't do so well in this one. Yagsource on my left flank did towards the end. And Genjeft on the far left sort of brought it back later on after being pressured very early. But I think MVP really comes down to the Pack 40 here. Into the start of Phase B, where I just sort of had that in that tree line and took out 4 tanks like one after the other. That was incredibly important. It was a very big swing in my favour. Like it basically put me about 500 points ahead of my opponent in terms of resources on the field, and that makes it very hard for Island Man to like come back from that. He would have to sort of find ambushing shots onto my tanks in order to sort of reverse that. But you could see it just ended up snowballing instead, and there wasn't much way for him to come back after his early phases where, you know, he could have been the aggressor. Didn't really pay off. With my Panzer IV coming in here as well, like Ramch did really, really well. Took out Harris and was just like harassing around the top side for a lot of that game. Didn't get too many kills other than like the kills towards the end there, the 17 pounder and the Sexton, but just was providing a lot of pressure, and getting that Harris kill was important anyway. Panther A came in, although it did go down to the 17 pounder, but this befell Panther then coming in and cleaning things up. And just the Pack 40 play, like moving them forwards with the half tracks there, just really helped me out. The Gepards were doing a fantastic job, using the Panzer II-C with its off map to try and like make some ground as well, just pin down the right units, killed off the 6 pounder as well. And yeah, so you can see the fill battery there killing off that 6 pounder. That was a pretty important kill as well, just to sort of enable my Panzer IVs to continue forwards. In terms of losses, it was Cromwell 7 that one-shot my Panzer IV. That was a pretty sick shot from that Cromwell 7. We saw the Panzer IV H get killed by Harris before Harris got pinned down himself. 17 pounder took out that Panther A. We see the Sherman 5 there taking out the Flam Panzer, and then it was just a few kills here and there from the motorized rifles and Hellcats and stuff. So we didn't actually take too many losses in the end. If I hadn't lost that Panther, then that would have been more like 1,200 losses, which would have been even more crazy. But there we go, guys. That's my showcase of the second Panzer. Make sure you guys join me on stream in the future, every Saturday at 8 PM GMT. And in the meantime, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.